On January 14, 2025, South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol made history by becoming the first sitting president in the country to be detained for questioning on criminal charges. This unprecedented event marked a significant escalation in the ongoing political crisis in South Korea, which has seen deepening divisions and tensions in recent years. Background: Yoon Suk Yeol, who narrowly won the presidency in 2022, faced mounting opposition from a National Assembly dominated by rival parties. Throughout his presidency, Yoon's confrontational style and contentious policies sparked numerous clashes with opposition leaders and civil society. The situation escalated dramatically in December 2023 when Yoon declared martial law, labeling opposition members as anti-state forces and attempting to impose military control over political activities. His declaration was met with widespread condemnation and was ultimately rejected by the National Assembly. In early January 2025, attempts by the prosecution to detain Yoon were thwarted when his security team obstructed law enforcement officials. However, on January 14, prosecutors mobilized approximately 1,000 police officers to his residence in Seoul, leading to a tense standoff that culminated in Yoon's detention. The detention. The police operation began early in the morning as investigators attempted to execute a court-issued arrest warrant. Officers faced barricades set up by Yoon's security personnel who had previously resisted attempts to detain him. After prolonged negotiations and the use of force, law enforcement officials managed to breach the barriers and successfully apprehended the president. Yoon was taken to the Corruption Investigation Office, where he faced intense questioning regarding his declaration of martial law and allegations of insurrection. Reports indicated that investigators had prepared an extensive list of questions. But Yoon's legal representatives suggested that he would invoke his right to remain silent during the interrogation. Political repercussions. Yoon's detention sparked immediate reactions across the political spectrum. While opposition leaders celebrated the event as a step toward restoring democratic norms and rule of law, members of Yoon's People Power Party expressed outrage. They accused the opposition of orchestrating a politically motivated attack against a sitting president and sought to distance themselves from the actions that led to his impeachment. The political atmosphere in South Korea became increasingly polarized following Yoon's detention. Supporters of Yoon rallied outside the investigation office, voicing their discontent and condemning the actions of the opposition. Conversely, anti-Yoon protests gained momentum, with demonstrators calling for accountability and the restoration of democratic governance. Legal and constitutional implications. The legal implications of Yoon's detention were profound. Following the interrogation, prosecutors had the option to seek a formal arrest warrant, which could lead to an indictment within 20 days. Observers noted that courts had previously approved arrests of Yoon's associates, suggesting that a similar outcome was likely for the president himself. Additionally, the Constitutional Court began deliberating on the legitimacy of the National Assembly's impeachment vote against Yoon, further complicating the political landscape. If the court upheld the impeachment, a new presidential election would be required within 2 months, potentially reshaping South Korea's political dynamics. Conclusion. Yoon Suk Yeol's detention on January 14, 2025 represented a watershed moment in South Korean politics, highlighting deep-seated divisions and the fragility of democratic institutions. As the country faced the prospect of a prolonged political crisis, analysts warned that the events surrounding Yoon's impeachment and potential arrest could lead to further instability, intensified street protests, and a re-evaluation of political allegiances. The unfolding situation underscored the challenges facing South Korea as it navigated a complex and tumultuous political landscape. Counterintuitive information. 1. Historical context of detention. The fact that Yoon Suk Yeol became the first sitting president to be detained for criminal charges in South Korea may seem like a straightforward escalation of political crisis. However, it is counterintuitive in a country that has a history of authoritarian rule and political upheaval, where leaders have often faced severe consequences for their actions yet have rarely been detained while in office. This unprecedented event challenges the perception of South Korea's political stability and democratic resilience. 2. Public reaction. While one might expect public outrage over the detention of a sitting president, the report notes that many segments of the population, especially those aligned with opposition parties, welcomed the move as a restoration of constitutional order. This contrasts sharply with the expectation that a president's detention would lead to widespread protests in defense of their leadership, indicating a deep political divide within the country. 3. Political polarization and support dynamics. The article describes a significant increase in the approval ratings of Yoon's party following the detention, suggesting that political polarization might actually bolster support for the ruling party among its base. This contradicts the common assumption that political crises lead to a decline in support for the incumbent, highlighting the complexities of voter behavior in highly polarized environments. 4. Martial law versus democratic norms. Yoon's declaration of martial law was initially met with severe backlash and was quickly overturned by the National Assembly. However, the subsequent events leading to his arrest suggest that some factions within the military and law enforcement were willing to enforce his controversial decisions. This raises questions about the strength of democratic institutions in South Korea, where even a president's extreme measures can still find some level of support, albeit temporarily. 5. Legal proceedings and political strategy. The notion that courts would likely support Yoon's arrest and uphold his impeachment reflects a counterintuitive aspect of political strategy. Normally, one would expect legal systems to be influenced by political pressures. However, the article suggests that the judiciary might act independently in this case, potentially reinforcing the rule of law at a time when political loyalties are deeply fractured. 6. Conspiracy theories and political narratives. Yoon's reliance on conspiracy theories regarding electoral fraud and his framing of the martial law declaration as a necessary measure are indicative of a broader trend where political leaders may exploit narratives that resonate with their base. This contradicts the expectation that leaders would distance themselves from such theories to maintain credibility, indicating a strategic choice that plays into a highly polarized media landscape. 7. Impeachment process and future elections. The expectation that the impeachment process would lead to immediate instability is countered by the idea that it may instead facilitate a new election and a potential reshuffling of political power. This suggests that crises can sometimes lead to opportunities for political renewal, which is not a typical outcome in many political upheavals. In summary, the situation surrounding President Yoon Suk Yeol's detention reveals a complex landscape of political dynamics, public sentiment, and institutional responses that defy conventional expectations about political crises and their implications for governance and democracy in South Korea. President Yoon Suk Yeol's detention on January 14, 2025 is a watershed moment in South Korean politics, marking the first time a sitting president has faced criminal charges and been forcibly detained. This unprecedented situation raises numerous implications that many may overlook amidst the chaos of the unfolding events. Here are some key points that deserve deeper exploration along with their significance. 1. Historical context of political crisis. While many commentators focus on Yoon's detention as an event in isolation, understanding the historical context of South Korean politics is crucial. South Korea has a tumultuous history of political upheaval, with past leaders facing impeachment or imprisonment. However, the fact that Yoon, who was elected in 2022, has found himself in this position underscores a significant deterioration in political norms. This shift reveals a broader pattern of escalating political polarization and instability, which many analysts warn could erode the democratic foundations that South Korea has worked hard to establish since the late 20th century. 2. Impact of martial law declaration. Yoon's declaration of martial law is another aspect that deserves more attention. This move was not just a reaction to political challenges but a direct threat to democratic governance in South Korea. by attempting to impose military control over political processes and media. Yoon's actions demonstrated a willingness to undermine the very institutions that uphold democracy. The significance lies in how this action reflects deeper issues regarding the respect for democratic norms among leaders in times of crisis. It raises questions about the future conduct of public officials and their relationship with both the military and civil society, which could have long-lasting repercussions. 3. Public sentiment and civil society's role. Public reaction to Yoon's detention has been notably mixed, with significant sections of society expressing relief that accountability measures are being enforced against a sitting president. This dynamic showcases an engaged civil society that is increasingly unwilling to accept authoritarian overreach. However, it also highlights the risks of political tribalism, where citizens rally around their factions, further deepening societal divides. The implications of this division could manifest in increased street protests and unrest, as factions mobilize both in support of and against Yoon, posing challenges to social cohesion and stability. 4. Judicial independence and legal precedence. The role of the judiciary in this unfolding drama cannot be overstated. The courts have become a battleground for political legitimacy, and their decisions regarding Yoon's impeachment and potential arrest will set critical legal precedents. If the courts uphold the impeachment and facilitate Yoon's arrest, it could reinforce the principle of accountability for high-ranking officials in South Korea, potentially deterring future abuses of power. Conversely, if the judiciary appears to side with Yoon or undermines the impeachment process, it risks diminishing public trust in legal institutions, which could destabilize governance and rule of law in the long run. 5. International repercussions. Yoon's situation is not just a domestic issue but one with international ramifications. South Korea's allies, particularly the United States, are closely monitoring the situation. The stability of South Korea is crucial in the context of regional security dynamics, particularly concerning North Korea. Any significant political instability could affect military readiness and diplomatic strategies in the region. Moreover, how South Korea navigates this political crisis could influence perceptions of democracy and governance in other nations, especially in Asia, where similar tensions exist in various forms. 6. Potential for political realignment. Yoon's detention and the subsequent potential for new elections signal a possible political realignment in South Korea. The political landscape is highly polarized, and Yoon's party, the People Power Party, may struggle to maintain its footing amid internal dissent and public backlash. This situation creates an opening for opposition parties to gain ground, but it also raises the specter of further fragmentation. New political alliances could emerge, fundamentally altering the landscape of South Korean politics and possibly leading to more radical policy shifts. 7. Media and disinformation dynamics. The role of media, particularly in the age of social media, is crucial in shaping narratives around Yoon's detention. The rapid spread of conspiracy theories and misinformation during this crisis poses challenges to informed public discourse. This phenomenon reflects broader global trends where populist leaders leverage disinformation to consolidate power and undermine trust in traditional media. The implications for South Korean democracy are profound, as a misinformed public can significantly influence electoral outcomes and civic engagement. Conclusion. Yoon Suk Yeol's detention is not just a moment of political spectacle, it is a significant inflection point that highlights deep-seated issues within South Korea's political system, its societal fabric, and its legal institutions. The ramifications of this event will extend beyond immediate political outcomes, influencing the trajectory of democracy, governance, and civil society engagement in South Korea for years to come. Understanding these dimensions will be crucial for any analysis of the current and future state of South Korean politics. 1. Historical significance of Yoon Suk Yeol's detention. Yoon Suk Yeol's detention as the first sitting South Korean president to be held for criminal investigation represents a profound moment in South Korea's democratic history. This event signifies not only a challenge to the established political order but also highlights the vulnerabilities within the country's governance structures. The implications of this unprecedented action are far-reaching, affecting public trust in political institutions and raising questions about the separation of powers in the government. 2. Political crisis and polarization. The circumstances surrounding Yoon's detention indicate a deep-seated political crisis characterized by extreme polarization. His tenure has been marked by conflicts with the opposition, accusations of authoritarian tendencies, and a failed martial law declaration that exacerbated tensions. This polarization is not merely a political issue but also a societal one, as it has led to significant public unrest and division manifesting in street protests both supporting and opposing Yoon. The potential for further political instability looms as the country navigates through impeachment processes and possible new elections. 3. Legal and constitutional implications. The legal ramifications of Yoon's detention and the ongoing investigations raise critical questions about the rule of law in South Korea. The judiciary's role in these proceedings, including the Constitutional Court's deliberations on the legitimacy of his impeachment, will significantly influence the political landscape. Analysts suggest that the courts are likely to support the actions against Yoon, which could set a precedent for future political accountability. The unfolding legal battles also highlight the intricate relationship between law enforcement and political authority in South Korea. For future political landscape and elections, with Yoon's impeachment process underway and potential new elections on the horizon, South Korea is entering a critical period of political realignment. The outcome of Yoon's legal troubles could reshape political affiliations and voter sentiments, potentially leading to a shift in power dynamics between parties. As the opposition views Yoon's detention as a victory for constitutional order, the ruling party's response will be crucial in determining its future viability. The upcoming elections could either reinforce or challenge the current political factions, further influencing public discourse and the direction of governance in South Korea. 1. Richard Nixon and the Watergate scandal. 1972 to 1974. President Nixon's administration was embroiled in a major political scandal after a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate office complex. As investigations unfolded, it was revealed that Nixon had attempted to cover up his administration's involvement. This led to a series of revelations about abuses of power, resulting in a loss of public trust. The scandal culminated in Nixon's resignation on August 8, 1974. Making him the first U.S. president to resign from office. The ensuing investigations and political turmoil resulted in significant changes to campaign finance laws and greater oversight of executive power. 2. Impeachment of Bill Clinton. 1998 to 1999. President Bill Clinton faced impeachment by the House of Representatives in December 1998 on charges of perjury and obstruction of justice stemming from his extramarital affair with Monica Lewinsky, a White House intern. The impeachment trial took place in the Senate, where Clinton was acquitted on both charges in February 1999. This case highlighted issues of personal conduct in office, the limits of presidential power, and the political polarization of the era. Clinton's impeachment was one of the most significant political events in the late 20th century, influencing subsequent discussions about ethics and accountability in government. 3. South Korean President Park Geun-hye scandal. 2016 to 2017. Park Geun-hye, the first female president of South Korea, was embroiled in a corruption scandal that led to widespread protests and her eventual impeachment. Accusations surfaced that she had colluded with her close friend Choi Soon-sil to extort money from businesses and influence government decisions. In December 2016, the National Assembly voted to impeach her, and in March 2017 the Constitutional Court upheld the impeachment, leading to her removal from office. This scandal exposed deep-seated issues of corruption within South Korean politics and resulted in significant public outcry, calls for reform and changes in leadership. The recent detention of South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol marks a historic turning point in the nation's political landscape, raising numerous implications for the future of governance, civil unrest, and the overall political climate in South Korea. Predictions for the future. 1. Political instability and impeachment proceedings. The detention of President Yoon will likely trigger a wave of political instability as the nation navigates the impeachment process initiated by the opposition-dominated National Assembly. Analysts predict that the Constitutional Court will uphold the impeachment, leading to Yoon's formal removal from office. This could create a political vacuum requiring a swift presidential election within 2 months, further reshaping the political landscape. 2. Increased polarization. The current political crisis has exacerbated existing divisions in South Korean society. As the Conservative People Power Party rallies around Yoon while the opposition Democratic Party capitalizes on his downfall, societal polarization is expected to deepen. This polarization may lead to intensified street protests, both supporting and opposing the former president. Reminiscent of previous political demonstrations in South Korea's history. 3. Impact on future elections. Should Yoon be removed, the ensuing presidential election is likely to be highly contentious. Candidates will likely be scrutinized intensely, with campaigns focusing on restoring public trust, addressing corruption, and navigating the legacy of Yoon's presidency. The election could usher in new leadership from either side of the political spectrum, prompting shifts in policies regarding domestic issues and international relations, particularly concerning North Korea. 4. Legal precedents and rule of law. Yoon's case will set significant legal precedents for future governance in South Korea. The judiciary's role in deciding the legitimacy of the impeachment and the outcome of legal proceedings against Yoon will be closely watched. Legal experts suggest that any ruling affirming accountability for a sitting president may strengthen the rule of law and encourage greater scrutiny of executive actions in the future. 5. Potential for reform. In the aftermath of this political upheaval, there may be calls for political and electoral reforms aimed at preventing future abuses of power. Discussions could include changes to the presidential power's electoral processes and the relationship between the military and civilian government. Such reforms may be necessary to restore faith in democratic institutions and ensure stability in governance. 6. International relations and economic implications. The political crisis could have ramifications for South Korea's international standing. As the government grapples with internal strife, its ability to engage effectively with global partners may be compromised. Economic ramifications could arise from investor uncertainty and potential disruptions in policy direction, especially concerning trade relations and security alliances, particularly with the United States and responses to North Korea's actions. 7. Media influence and public sentiment. The media's role in shaping public perception during this crisis cannot be underestimated. As conspiracy theories proliferate and narratives around Yoon's detention evolve, the media landscape may become increasingly polarized. This could lead to a more fragmented public discourse, making it challenging for citizens to discern factual information from sensationalism, further complicating the political climate. 8. Rise of new political leaders. The political vacuum created by Yoon's potential removal may pave the way for new political figures to emerge. Both the opposition and dissident factions within the ruling party may rally behind fresh candidates, potentially leading to a generational shift in South Korean politics. This shift could either stabilize or further complicate the political dynamics, depending on how these leaders navigate the existing divides. 9. Civic engagement and activism. The ongoing crisis may galvanize civic engagement as citizens become more involved in the political process, either in support of or against the current political establishments. Grassroots movements may rise in response to perceived injustices or failures of governance, potentially leading to a more politically active populace that demands greater accountability and transparency from its leaders. 10. Long-term governance changes. In the long term, South Korea may experience a shift toward a more participatory political culture with increased demands for transparency and accountability. The current crisis could serve as a catalyst for structural changes within governance, leading to a re-evaluation of the relationships between branches of government and the military, resulting in a more balanced distribution of power. Conclusion. In summary, the detention of President Yoon Suk Yeol serves as a critical juncture in South Korean politics with potential ramifications that extend beyond immediate political outcomes. The intersection of legal, societal, and international factors will shape the future of governance in South Korea as citizens and leaders alike grapple with the implications of this unprecedented moment in the country's democratic history. The ensuing months will be pivotal in determining the trajectory of South Korea's political landscape, with far-reaching effects on its democracy and civil society.